What's up, guys? This is Kalo, and normally I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming, but welcome back to another episode of Game Sandwich Hot Topic. Today, I am joined by Aiden. Why don't you say what's up? Oh, the dab. You gotta
Old school.
start. Yeah, you're throwing it back, and I think that's more than adequate because we got a big adventure ahead of us. And today we're going to be talking about open world games and how they are terrible. Lately, I want to preface that by saying lately. I think this concept of an
Since the
open world,
PS4.
give or take, we'll get into that. But I think the concept of an open world game, the definition of what that is, has changed a lot over recent years. I think my main point with this all, and I'm looking and I'm gonna bash the game, we've bashed it before. I'm normally a defender of it. Assassin's Creed, whether that be Valhalla, Odyssey, or I think my one was Unity here. Yeah, Unity, maybe. The bloat in these games is unreal. There are so many little points of interest. Collect this, do that, climb up here, do this viewpoint. The bloat in these games needs to stop. There used to be a time where you go to a point, do the thing, unlock the next mission. Nowadays, it just seems like you're in this little hamster wheel, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and I did the whole, like, oh, hey, I'm gonna cough, cough. It was bad on the PS4 too. Cough, cough. Because really, open world games, to me, took a fucking dive on that PS4 era. And, I mean, really, I know companies are trying their best, and I know that they're, like, trying to keep people interested, but really, whenever they expand out, they end up creating more issues.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, I don't remember who it was that said it, but there was like some industry executive that said something along the lines of, "Oh, here's a point. We need something within a certain radius of said point, or people get bored going to said point." And if you don't have a point of interest within X amount of meters of another point of interest, then people will just get bored and throw the game away. Yada yada yada. And really, like, that just, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that, really, other than, like, give people a little bit more credit. I mean, this year we had Dragon's Dogma.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon's Dogma does not have points of interest everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's a great game. In my own opinion, it is a prime example of a good open world game.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't tell you, oh, hey, you can fast travel here and there. It makes you experience the world, and it's filled with enough stuff that you get action, but you can also just avoid everything and you can see the world for yourself. And, like, if you really want to avoid everything, you can fast travel. But then you also have games like, and as much as I love it, Horizon Zero Dawn,
Yeah.
or Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom,
Oh.
or like Ghost of Tsushima, or like you can create a list of how many will go, oh, hey, you have to have a point of interest within this distance, and if you don't have that point of interest, then people are going to hate it. But when they do that, they flood it with too much stuff.
Mm-hmm. Also, real quick, you brought up fast travel. In these games, stop freaking charging me to fast travel. I think that is one thing that, like, there's a lot in gaming that bothers me. But whenever you look at, like, Fallout 76, for example, really? You're gonna charge me 20 caps to go to a place I've already been? It makes no sense.
That's only because it's a live service game.
Horizon, I think, does that too, though. That you have to get these, like, sacks or whatever they charge you. I'm like, dude, like, really? Yeah, I could be completely wrong, but I think that was a thing in
I
that
don't
game.
remember that. I could be blanking on it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, just stop charging me to go places real quick. And to your point of, like, developers just need to trust us as gamers, I look to a title like Red Dead 2 real quick, and I think this is the thing I have with it. It's a fantastic game by every right. I think it's a great game top to bottom. I love it. I still play it, whatever. Whenever I don't know, there's a point of interest, you gotta have some faith in us. Let us go about things our way. Let us do things. You're supposed to be a cowboy, right? You're supposed to be a little dude with a hat, a little pew pew, get through it all, whatever. That's great. I love being a cowboy. It's my favorite thing to do. But normally, cowboy aesthetic, and correct me if I'm wrong, the aesthetic to this all, as the youth like to say. Cowboys tend to carry 2 pistols or a rifle, 1 or 2, that's it, we're good, sharpshooter. But in this game, you get off your horse, you got your 2 pistols, you got a shoulder weapon, and then you got your rifle or a sniper or whatever have you. I think that takes away from the immersion, and that kind of tells you, like, hey, you as the player, we don't trust you to get through this mission with just your pistol.
You are really forgetting about something here. You are forgetting the infinite storage that is your asshole.
Yeah, my bad. I was saving that more for GTA because you can kind of pull an RPG out from there, but I try to stay within the world here. But I get it. Sure, keep your weapons on the horse, and it does that to a point where you can stash your rifle and it's there, you can see it. But whenever I get off my horse to go do a mission or do whatever, let me pick. Am I gonna do the 2 pistol? Am I gonna do a rifle and 1 pistol? It'll give the mission more stakes in a way, because it's alright, I don't have everything on me. I don't have my shotgun in case I'm in a more of a close quarters deal. I only have my pistol. I think that adds to it. They need to trust us more. We're not that dumb.
My biggest gripe with open world games, really, the biggest gripe that I have is the copy and paste of mechanics that they have in every game. Yeah. When you really look at them, how many times are you going to have an open world game where you hide in bushes? Please tell me how many open world games where you hide in a bush and it conceals you completely.
The bushes in games are magical. They can hide anything.
Or how many times are you going to have an open world game with a goddamn tower?
The Ubisoft towers, man.
Yeah. I mean, it started with Ubisoft, but then it went to other open world games.
Yep.
And now it's every open world game has to have some sort of thing that reveals the surrounding area. It's you don't need that. You really don't. Once again, I'd point to Dragon's Dogma as being a perfect open world game for that reason.
I think a game that, and again, this goes back to the definition of an open world game, but it was a more scaled down example of what I really want out of these style of games. The Last of Us Part 2. You got to these points in the map where there was a small chunk of a larger world. But within that chunk, you're getting better experiences with enemies. You're getting more lore, meaningful lore, not just whatever have you, because we need to string you along to the next big mission. And I think I want to get a more focused and direct experience with the story versus going into I can't believe I'm going to bash this game, but you go into Skyrim, you get off, you escape Hafgard. I think that was the first. Was it Helgen? I don't know. I haven't played that game from the start in a long time. But you got out of the first little area, and then you're just you can rip. That's Bethesda titles to a T, but I want to have more meaning to where I'm going versus hey, random direction, random people, random piece of paper that says blah, 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 and then whatever.
I think Bethesda, of all companies, actually does open worlds right.
Yeah.
I give them this, at least Fallout 4, Fallout 76. I mean, they feel unique. Skyrim, it feels unique whenever you're going from place to place. Every location feels interesting. Every location feels like it matters in some way, shape, or form. But then you have, Breath of the Wild, or you have like Tears of the Kingdom, where it's like, oh, how many shrines are you going to go through until you realize they're pretty much all the same? It's just a different puzzle in each one of them, and you're going to call it a dungeon when it's not really a dungeon.
Mm.
And it bugs me to no end because Nintendo, like, people eat it up too. That's the thing. Like, people are like, oh man, it's Zelda, so I'm going to eat this shit up, even though that's literally what it is. It's slop and it's terrible, and like nobody should be satisfied with that. Really, it's like if you're going to copy and paste a bunch of elements, make it more interesting. I went in Breath of the Wild, I went through all like 99 of those shrines that existed, and it was not worth it. And then like the Korok seeds, how many times are you gonna go play hide and seek with some damn Koroks? Or like none of the locations in Breath of the Wild, as much as I want to say I like it because I love older Zelda games, those nothing felt meaningful in it. Everything just felt like it was just another point on the map where like it doesn't matter. And that's a lot of open world games. You have things like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Nothing felt unique in that.
No.
Even even Far Cry. As much as I like the Far Cry games because like I just love them for their hilarity, everything, and they're great villains. Those two, they don't feel unique whenever you're going from one location to the other because it's like, oh, here's an outpost. Here's another outpost where you do the same thing. Here's another outpost. And it's basically like there's nothing that feels genuine in them anymore. And they haven't felt genuine for a while. Yeah. Except for like select companies that go the extra mile to set things apart. That's why I say Bethesda does it right. Where like every location is unique. Every location gives you a little bit of story or something, or it gives you backstory to that world.
Yeah. I think this kind of boils down to the fact that developers are taking away the fun, quote unquote, of discovering things in an open world. The kind of like the fact that you get a sword, but at first you don't know where it is. You don't really know like how to track it down. Not knowing in that sense adds to the value of, all right, I finally made it to this sword. I have it. It feels good to have. That is the fun in it. But this is where I differ from you, and I say this is why I like a game like Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild. And it's only simply because of the fact with these other open world games, before you're littered with all of these little points, symbols, whatever have you. The fun in that game was you go to a high point and you look out in the distance and say, there's something over there. There's a camp. There's a structure. I don't know what's in it, but I'm going to go over there and look at it and try to investigate and discover, you know? So that's kind of why I like those games in a sense, where it's like, it's an open world. Yes, there are so many different like little fetch quests and collectathons and whatever have you. But at least in that game, the discover part of an open world game is there, and you can kind of take it as you will.
See, I don't even say that the discover part is there in like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. And the reason why is because of how repetitive they get.
Yeah.
Like you say, oh, hey, here's this point. Yeah, cool. You can go up to a high place and see that point. Guess what? You can do that in Dragon's Dogma too. But every point feels more unique. So, like, yeah, that point that you're going to, it could just be another shrine that has another weapon that's going to break on you, and you had it for like 10 minutes. You thought it was fun. Oh, hey, really? What was the point then at that point? Like, but when you talk about a game like Dragon's Dogma, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, you can go to that point that you see way off in the distance, but you might be fighting a fucking griffin there. And then that griffin will lead you to where there's a, blanking on the name of what it is, but the Sphinx, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, that griffin Then, oh hey, you find a hidden path that leads to a sphinx. Oh hey, that sphinx has a quest for you.
There you go.
Cool. Like, there's so many instances of that in Dragon's Dogma where you have like these little things that make it feel more unique because like yeah, you have your fetch quests and everything, and that's to be expected, and as much as we hate them, they're going to exist.
Yeah.
But like they couple it with like NPCs who can give you quests. Oh, you work with an NPC, cool. Eventually they talk to you and they go, "Hey, will you help me do this? Because you interacted with me earlier, I'm going to give you something in return, give you a quest, give you a reason to go to another place. Oh, if you go to a location at a certain time, you'll run into another NPC that you didn't
Mm-hmm.
know was there before.
Yeah.
Like, give me something like that versus I'm going to go do shrine and then another shrine and then another shrine and then another shrine. Oh, now I'm going to go down below and do more shrines that are in the dark.
Shrines in the Dark. Love it. That sounds like an
Yeah.
album. That sounds like a sick album.
I mean, really, Nintendo took Breath of the Wild, an already not that good of game, and made it even worse by just adding more shrines to
Just
it.
throw more shrines at it. It'll be fine.
Like, I don't care as much as like if people want to hate me, they can hate me for this, but like eventually they have to realize that Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are just terrible games.
Hey, if that's a clippable moment, that's it right there.
Yeah, give me give me the era of Twilight Princess because
Yes.
that is the perfect. Twilight Princess is the perfect open world because it's not open world. Zelda was perfect when it was, oh hey, here's like an open world area for you to explore, like Hyrule Fields. Oh hey, open
Yeah.
area, you can go explore it, you can fight enemies. But then the dungeons are linear.
Yeah.
The dungeons are about story. They are about finding that information. Then you go back and explore again. Give me that. That was a better setup.
Now, you brought up one big component of these open world games, and that's fighting a boss. I think we should get back to the days where those boss battles, whether you come across them or not, actually meant something to the game. I don't know. Have you played like Elden Ring, like Dark Souls games, like those games? Kind of.
You're gonna ask that? I've beaten Elden Ring like 20 times.
All right. So I'm going to pose this question as somebody who hasn't touched one of those games because I'm too scared to. How many bosses in that game meant something to the story?
Story wise, I don't remember exactly how many bosses there are that matter. I want to say it's like 8
And then
out of the 160 that exist.
perfect. Perfect. There you helped me out right there. I just I get you're trying to fill the world with stuff, but I think we need boss battles that add story weight. Why am I going here to kill this dude that's in a cave? And most of the time when we come across like a big boss, I can't help but think of Swan from Fallout 4, that big old freaking dude who comes out of this little pond. Like, adding a story mission, a grand one at that, to go get this boss, it would add so much to the game. It's like a memorable experience. I think we need to tie those missions to the story and not just tuck them away in some random cave and be like, you just killed Bashful the Great. I don't know. I'm horrible at naming things. But yeah, you did it. Yeah, there you go. Here's like 40 coins and some magic. I don't know. But yeah, like, I need to add stakes to these boss battles.
Like, well, I double checked it. It's 13 bosses
Oh,
in Elden Ring that matter. 13 of them that are actually story related. Or like maybe 14 if you want to count like the optional bosses that matter, maybe 15 at the most, but really most of them don't matter. But I still say Elden Ring is a great open world game. It does have its issues though, and one of them is the repetitive nature of it.
mm.
I keep saying open world games need to quit being repetitive.
Well, that's the thing. There's the whole stigma now in gaming is how do we keep players involved? How do we keep the player retention up? How do we keep playtime up? And this world we're living in, time is valuable. And gamers, at least for my take on this, I dedicate some time to play games at the end of the day. I want that to mean something versus like, hey, I'm going to load in, let's just say Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm not going to spend my next 2.5 hours collecting acorns, like, for no reason. Like, yay, I don't know, acorns, great. But, like, I want it to mean something. Give me a little more. Give me a little more juice to this whole thing. And then I'll be happy. Versus just throwing it out there and be like, yeah, that's just in the game. Take it or leave it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, the more something matters for a story, the better it is. And that's, once again, that brings me around to, like, Bethesda does it right. Because,
Yeah.
like, if you go, like, Fallout 76, you leave the vault, cool, you meet some NPCs. The first area you go to, most likely, is going to end up being Flatwoods.
Yeah.
Flatwoods is a big part of the story. Cool. That's the first area you go to, but they have various locations where you can just discover what the overseer was doing.
Yeah.
You have various locations where you can just go find notes or like find computers that tell you about that location, about how it changed over the last 25 years while you were waiting for the vault to open.
Mm-hmm.
You have important information that you can get that helps build the world around you. In other games like that too, like in Skyrim, you have that same thing where you can find notes and like read books that help build the world and everything. But that stuff gets lost in like more modern games. Like you have a little bit of that in Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, but then you still have the repetitive stuff that like you don't need. Like more companies need to focus on making stuff feel unique and adding replayability to a game because that stuff matters. I mean, Elden Ring, as good as it is, if they shaved off like half the boss, like every boss that like basically comes back and only kept the unique bosses, you'd have like half as many bosses in that game. But it would still feel just as good because all the areas are unique, all the areas stand out, and like it's replayable. It
Yeah.
has good enough gameplay that keeps you coming back because you constantly want to try something new. And that's the reason why they're able to sell the DLC right now that they're going to be selling for $40. I think
Yeah.
the cost is. I mean, a $40 DLC, any other game would end up getting like put on blast for
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Like normally you pay $40 for a season pass,
Mm-hmm.
but they're getting that out of one DLC.
Yeah.
And it's because of how big that game is and how much work they put into it. No doubt there's going to be like 10 bosses that are the same boss in that DLC, but it's still a lot of content that matters and feels good to explore despite the repetitive nature. I mean, really, if they just remove the repetitive stuff, I'd be more inclined to be more interested in it, you know?
And it's not to say, like, take away from the total playtime of the game. I look to a mission you brought up, Skyrim. The Wabbajack mission, like, that is a mission I remember to a T. The whole thing, and I remember the weapon you got at the end that meant something. That was a Daedric artifact. Like,
Yeah.
do more of that. Like, even, alright, let's just say you take out 50 pointless missions. Throw in 3 other kind of meaningful missions, like the Wabbajack questline, and we're fine. We're happy. We'll go back and play it. It's fun. Like, that stuff is
Yeah.
fun. That's what they don't understand, I think. That thing gets lost in translation so much.
Yeah. No game company wants to make, like, for some reason, they seem to have an issue with DLC. They want to
Yeah.
create something new. Hey, buy this game that's like a $60, $70, $80 game. Cool. But for some reason, DLC is out of the question. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Skyrim is as profitable as it is and has become as big as it is because, like, partly due to them being able to like sell as much of the DLC as they have.
And it was
Like, they
good
made it
DLC.
replayable. They made it replayable. Then they spent their time making meaningful DLC that added to the
Yes.
value of the game. And then there you go.
Yeah.
That in turn made it so more people wanted to get it. When they released the special edition version, people didn't hesitate to buy it because they liked the game and they were like, "Oh, hey, this is a great way to replay it."
Yeah.
And we have all the DLC in one place now. Yay!
I think you brought up a point earlier about like games now. I think the best way I'm going to try to explain it, we're looking at like a slot machine essentially. What developers see now is us sitting at the slot machine, put our coin in, and give us the flashy lights all over the screen. But honestly, more often than not, it means something that isn't too substantial, but like it looks like it's great. It looks like you press start when
Yeah,
you open up Valhalla. It's a big world, and there's all these little cool flashy symbols and whatever. But does any of it really mean anything? Honestly, no, it doesn't. And I love that game. But yeah, I'm not going to remember any of like some of the side missions. There's a few of them that stick out to me. But yeah, those little interest points, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't remember anything.
yeah,
We're sitting at that, there's a term for it. Is it like instant gratification type deal? Is that what this is, I think? I could be wrong.
yeah. I mean, that's what I would say. Really, it's just like developers are looking for everyone to like get that gratification. Like, oh, hey, they want to get there, get whatever it is, get out, end of
Yeah.
deal, and then like, oh, cool, on to the next place, on to the next place, on to the next place, whatever. And I don't know. They're at first that's great. At first, like, I think a lot of it is like I thought originally whenever I first played Breath of the Wild, I thought it was a great game. I loved it when I bought it and I was playing it and I was like, oh man, I really love these shrines and everything. But then when I took a moment to actually like sit back and look at it and think about it, I was like, this really isn't that great of a game. It really, there's nothing, it offers nothing almost.
Yeah.
And I was like, really, yeah, they changed Zelda, but they didn't change it for the better. And like a game that really stands out to me for like it's flashy but it doesn't have depth is like Forspoken.
Hmm.
That game, it is like I getting past the dialogue, whatever, the actual gameplay of it is flashy. It's fun when it comes to combat, but then when you look at the depth of the game and the open world that it provides, there is next to nothing in that. And really, it just comes down to companies need to care more about putting in the depth instead of making everything as shallow as a kiddie pool.
Yeah, like I think with open world games at first, like what you said, it's good to get that instant gratification because you're leveling up, you're just getting set foot in this world, you're trying to establish yourself. But what happens when I beat the main quest line, I'm level 60, and I can pretty much one shot everything? Am I really going to go
Yeah.
around and collect what were those gems in Skyrim? The pink ones, the unusual gems, I think they were called. There's like a specific stone they were called, and like they were tucked away all around the world. It's
I
like,
don't remember those. I remember the masks though.
yeah, 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 exactly. Those masks. Uh, it's that like that period in time that differentiates a really good open world game versus one that's you know what it is. It's there to just kind of be there, meet numbers, and sell by any means necessary. And again, I do like the point of DLC. DLC is vital for these games.
Yeah. It's the only way they're ever going to have longevity. I mean, you beat them, but if you have like if you have plans for future content, then like keep that content going. There's no reason you couldn't make an open world game last like 20 years like Skyrim nowadays.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you couldn't. Really, You just need to have a dedicated company, like developer, that wants to make new content that is meaningful.
Yeah, it's that thing. You got to meet the number. That's what it is. The game development is that in a nutshell. You got to meet these numbers. Line must go up. We've talked about it before, but that's what it is. Open world games are suffering at the hands of this. Do you have any more takes here? Any more final words for our open world adventure?
No, no, I think I'm good.
Well, this is my favorite part of the episode where we pass it off to you guys. What do you think about open world games? What are some of your favorites? What are some of your least favorites? I'm going to say my favorite of all time is Skyrim, of course. I love that game to death. And my least favorite, am I going to go Unity? I'll go Assassin's Creed Unity for the lols. And I already know where you stand on the worst. Am I going to assume Tears of the Kingdom, or is there
I
another
mean,
one that's
really,
below it?
I've never played Unity, so I can't say anything about that one. But I mean, really, when it comes to open worlds, yeah, like the latest Zelda games are like the absolute worst.
There we go. That's all we needed. But we're always talking about video games in our Discord. Links to that will be in the video description down below. And of course, I've been Kalo, joined by Aiden, and we'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed today's debate or want your weekly dose of gaming news content, consider subscribing to Game Sandwich for content just like this. And we'll see you guys next time.